Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome back to the Firestone Report. You're listening to Jennifer Clark and Bruce Firestone. Wednesday, January 25th, 2012. The first show of 2012.
Yes,
and
it
we're
is.
Still here. The world did not end.
Well, it's not supposed to end. The Mayan calendar doesn't end, I think, until the end of this year. So we have a few more months.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Pay your taxes.
Yeah. Pay your taxes. Don't not pay your taxes.
So Bootstrap Awards, February. Tell us about it, Bruce. This is your big
yeah, today's a big day. Today's the last day for people to get their nominations in. You can self-nominate or you can have somebody nominate your company. You have to be 7 years of age or less, so your company can't be older than 7, and you can't have had more than $650,000 in outside funding. And there's 12 awards up for grabs next month at the Bootstrap Awards. You know, we have a new one this year, the Lead to Win Award for women entrepreneurs. We have another new one.
Good.
Yeah, the People's Choice Award, Best Mobile App. That's sponsored by Select Star Studios. And so we have a wonderful group of sponsors, a great group of awards. And what the show is really supposed to do is it's supposed to focus on, you know, the huge majority of startups that are not VC funded.
Right. And from being there twice now, the story. An 18-year-old kid borrowed $25,000 on his credit card, made $200,000, paid it all back.
Yeah, I think we're going to hear today from our guest. You'll introduce him in a minute, but I think we're going to hear today that Renaissance started with $20,000 on the credit card.
There you go. So Bootstrap Awards, how do people find out more?
Yeah, they have to go to explorium.org/bootstrap. Explorium.org/bootstrap, and they'll find a link on there to my review room, and they can apply online for an award. They can self-nominate. They can be nominated by a third party. It's easy to do. 20 minutes, you're done. But it has to be done by midnight Wednesday, January 25th, Eastern time. That's tonight.
And the actual event is in February.
Yeah, it's February 23rd. It actually starts with the Adawi trade show. Adawi is Algonquin for trading post, so we kind of use that. Mm-hmm. This is the land of the Algonquins, after all. So it starts at 10:30 in the morning with a kind of a cool entrepreneur trade show. Lasts only 90 minutes, so everybody, you know, it's like speed dating for entrepreneurs.
Right. And
then at noon, we give you a really nice lunch. The awards start at 12:30. At 2, we're done. So we're all about efficiency.
Right, wonderful. And congratulations on filming QE.
Yeah. Last night.
Is your book, Quantum Entity?
Yeah, well, it's the short film is Quantum Entity is being done by Janik Alford and his people at prototyped.org. We had them on the show in December, if you remember. And they're doing a short film, and they're doing a documentary of how to make a short film on a very, very small budget. And they say that the short film will be a James Cameron-style film, but without the budget.
So things will be shooting at you, or what?
Well, you know, we'll
which
see.
James Cameron, the Titanic or the Avatar?
Well, it's a little bit of both because there is a love story, and it's a love triangle. What else is new?
Yeah.
And then, of course...
Are you in it?
I'm not sure I should say yes or no. Okay, yes, I am.
Yeah.
And but I mean,
play?
you know, like Alfred Hitchcock liked to be in all of his own shows and in all of his own films.
Stan Lee shows up at the
But so I you know, I don't know if people will actually recognize me. Well, maybe they will. I'm an 85-year-old man, and all right,
I hope they don't.
Yeah, I hope they don't. So by the time they finish with makeup and all the rest of that, I mean, you have to take somebody as young as me, right? So and make me an 85-year-old. So I mean, I have 2 lines to remember, so I can manage it.
Wonderful. Well, on today's show we have Len Anderson, who has graciously given his time today. He's the CEO of Renaissance Repair and Supply. I hear a guy that helps people out when no one else will.
Really?
Or has abandoned them and left them with equipment that needs repair.
When, I guess, customers like, you know, end users like a Bell Canada, in Telecom, you know, when they are left with equipment lying around, I guess, for want of better words, or when they have stuff that they're trying to use, but it's so aged that no one wants to
But that's a huge market, though, because with technology changing so fast, and then providers dropping off or saying that, like, I'm no longer doing this, and then you've got the new, you just bought it on sale, and you're wondering, what do I do with it now?
Absolutely, absolutely. So in actual fact, studies would indicate that about 80% of what fits in a CO at a Bell Canada or a Verizon, any of those guys, across the board, if you painted them all with the same brush, whether it's Nortel gear, Cisco gear, Alcatel gear, that they're running, about 80% of that stuff is either discontinued, which means you can't buy it anymore, or it's end of service life, in which case they don't even touch it.
Now, how did you come up with this concept? I mean, did you just realize that there was a niche and a need there, and that they all sold that, or?
No, actually, so I was previously a Nortel employee. I worked there.
So you got legacy?
Everybody.
That's a good way to put it.
In Ottawa, everyone was a Nortel employee at one point. I was working in the repair division of Nortel trying to drive revenue from it, and we just started to see anomalies where by serial number, one customer would be returning a card that was sold originally to a different customer.
Oh.
It made me scratch my head, and I did some investigations with the internal bankruptcy people at Nortel, and this was right when the bubble had popped.
Sure.
And found that, oh my gosh, there's a used car market, for the lack of a better word, in telecom equipment. So, after investigation that month, we found about $60 million worth of assets.
Really?
That had changed hands from one customer to another customer direct. Approached Nortel's board to talk about, or actually leadership category and optical, to talk about it, and they wanted no part of it at first.
Right.
Because, for a company like a Nortel, investment is driven, the value to an investor is driven by that next release. All that new technology you talk about. But eventually I convinced them to start focusing on this. We did a study across the whole world on everybody's gear, and it came back with astounding figures on how much was out there and could be resold back and forth. And there's a full market there, like the used car market, that does go on. And
it's like recycle reuse. It's really
absolutely. So I mean, it's a great thing from a recycle reuse perspective, because you're, basically, if I'm a Bell, I'm driving things as long as I can because I'm trying to save a buck.
Right.
And these things they were made originally, they were designed to work, so they don't die.
Right.
A field failure rate on equipment that's sitting out there is about 1 to 3%. That's an acceptable failure rate per year. So this stuff just keeps going. So why would I rip it out if it's working?
Exactly.
So they want to
Very
keep
common
it in.
sense.
Absolutely. So dollars and cents.
Yeah, exactly.
So in actual fact, you know what? They're going to keep that stuff around, the older stuff. It's 80% of what drives your phone, your internet, your high-speed access, all that stuff is riding on today this old legacy, dusty old stuff.
Yeah.
Now, in actual fact, they keep really good care of it, so it's not dusty old stuff.
Right.
We want to paint a picture, but it's actually old, but in pristine shape. So, what we started to see was that, there is absolutely pockets of this out there. And if you work with the right carrier, they're sitting on it and they don't know what to do with it. It's a problem for them. But maybe somebody else can use it.
Right.
So, that's where we come in and add value.
Well, then, you and I talked a few weeks ago, and you told me a little bit about the Renaissance story, and one of the part that I think a lot of listeners will really enjoy is what you told me, that you started with $20,000 on a wife.
And a wife?
That's what he said.
That doesn't sound very good. But
yeah, I'm not here to fire him up. I don't know. Let's find out.
So yeah, actually, so in actual fact, my wife was my biggest champion, and she's always kind of said, go. So I was at Nortel doing this used gear resale for them, remanufactured, and we actually built it up huge for Nortel. But being my biggest fan, she kept pushing me, go, you can do this on your own. If you're not, this isn't their focus, and you've made it a success. So, you know what? Why not turn it into your focus and make it a success? Really go for it. So, I guess she's as crazy as me, because she turned and said, you need to quit. And we had no fun.
No way. She said that?
Absolutely. Wow. I can remember walking
That's
on
gutsy.
It totally is. And we have 4 small children.
Yeah.
And we had nothing to start with. And she said, I believe you can do it. So we...
no pressure.
Yeah, and there's been none since, too. So anyways, we made the leap. I quit Nortel, and we had a $20,000 credit card to start with as funding, and And we, bought some gear. It's like the paperclip on the internet.
Red paperclip.
Yeah. And we literally, bought gear and sold it and took the profits from that, bought more gear and sold it. And we just kept flipping and flipping and flipping. So, you know what? We used those early days. I used to get up in the morning and walk to the corner in the basement and sit there and get on the phone and just hustle. And
so I mean, the story, as I understand it, is it's really not a lot different from things you see on TV, like flip this house, right? You're buying old equipment. Maybe you're fixing it up.
Absolutely.
Repackaging it at least, and then reselling it. And that is very typical of entrepreneurs, Len. That entrepreneurs by definition start with nothing. Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, that is the definition of an entrepreneur.
You know what? So, my thought is that I was saying earlier when we were just bantering that you just have it in your blood. I've been a photographer for money way back in years. I had a industrial sewing of canvas materials business at one point.
Okay.
Where which came from, I had a boat. The top got crushed in the winter. I went to someone to get it fixed. The clear glass sides needed to be replaced. They wanted $1,000. I looked at that and went, that's crazy. I found a place to buy $50 worth of it. I bought an industrial sewing machine off someone, and it took me all summer to actually sew new replacements. But at the end of the summer, my boat was fixed, and it cost me a total of machine and material was about $300.
No way.
And from there, a business was born. Did that for a few years. But I mean, I think it's just in you, right? You want to do.
Yeah, I think a lot of entrepreneurs start a business because they feel they can create more interesting work for themselves than others can create for them.
Absolutely.
And it's that creative impulse.
It's the Harvard model, isn't that your alma mater model?
No, it's the MIT model, really.
I think. They ripped off MIT?
Who knows? I mean, Harvard has a different model, but that is a motivation. So going back to how you started it and how you bootstrapped it. So you were trading assets, and you told me that you built up a bit of a cash hoard, about $1 million.
Yes.
Right. And that did take a very long
time. How long did it take you? From 20,000 to $1 million, how long?
We were about. We had started to hire a couple of employees to help. Everybody worked from their house, and I think in the first year we did just over $1 million.
Wow.
Yeah. So in that first 12 months.
And revenues now are about.
This year we should be coming in, just under 10 by the end of the year.
Oh, fantastic. I was going to say 5, but I was wrong by a factor of 2.
No, So we're on a steady growth. I mean, orders tripled in December alone.
Wow.
And we're seeing that the business is doubling every year.
So who's buying? Who's your consumer base?
You know what? So we work for, originally when we started out, we had to own the craft.
Right.
So when we went in, originally we found a group of resellers that were just broker market. And we learned the trade there, or learned it better, because I had aspirations when I left Nortel, but you really see a difference when you're outside the machine. When you left the sausage factory and you see reality. So you have to learn. You have to learn how. So we built it on this broker market, and then gradually we went from there to end users. So we started off that people who were using the gear needed it, and they had no channel for it. So that was kind of the next progression, is starting to do work for them, learning what they need. Ultimately now we've moved into the OEMs themselves. So, we've got 5 of the major
Alcatel's a client.
Those type of guys, that we work for. And you know what? They have the same challenges. As a matter of fact, they bear the burden that they're trying hard to keep their customers, being the Bells and the Verizons and all these guys, running. And you know what? They need a solution. So we are becoming that solution for them over time. And they're the right set of customers that the demand is huge.
Huge. So you started with $20,000 on a credit card. You're closing in on $10 million in sales. Now, you did bring in some outside funding, but you didn't bring in outside funding until you had kind of really proven the concept.
Absolutely. We were in the building. We had things up and running. I think one of the... If I could look back on it and maybe organize things a bit different, when we went into the building,
Just tell the listeners where you are.
We're at 425 Leggett. Used to be a Selectron facility.
Right.
It's a 100,000 square feet building.
Right.
Buy's moving in next door.
Right.
The Buzz.
Yeah.
And or in that same building.
Yeah, for sure.
And we have about 30,000 square feet of it.
Yeah.
So moving in there when we started, there was nothing. It was empty. So the things that you're not prepared for potentially when you walk into something like that is every cubicle, every piece of racking, every card, every ESD matting, everything that you need to put money out for to get operational.
So it didn't take very long to go through that $1 million that you self-generated, right?
Absolutely. That was really our funding.
Yeah.
We generated, that first initial tranche was generated by ourselves, right? By the effort.
But, one of the things I've said for years now is that I think VCs and super angels would be better served by kind of waiting for the tall poppy to appear. So rather than investing in a raw startup, I think the VCs and the super angels are better off to kind of look over the fence and wait for the tall poppy. In other words, the successful startup. But it's also from the point of view, I think, of a startup, and I want to ask this question of you, Len. From the point of view of a startup, I also think it's better to be a little bit capital starved, a little bit hungrier, a little bit more customer focused early on, and then when they do get around to seeking outside funding, they have some real clients and real traction in the marketplace.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know what? As far as I'm concerned, the right move that we've made is, you do have to suffer a little bit. Yeah. Nothing comes easy. No. I mean, there is a reason why. It is the few that go out and try and start a business, and it's tough to do. But when you have the concept in your head and you have the drive and passion, money becomes secondary, and you find ways. The more you go down the path, a couple of things happen. The less cash you have, you absolutely get involved in more things, you understand more things, and they're more, at the end of it, you become somebody that even with an organization, you understand how everything works, because you haven't had the luxury of hiring too many people.
You have to sweep the floor and you've had to do it.
Absolutely.
Because you didn't pay the guy.
Terry Matthews and Andrew Fisher at Wesley Clover, not far from you in Canada, say get close to the customer early and often.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that you did.
Absolutely. And you know what? A lot of the customers, the way I approach them even today, it's funny, I was talking to one major potential for us today. We just started working for them. And my words were, you know what? We are your service delivery team, just like if we were, reporting to you. You get to the customer where you're friendly, but at the same time, you know what, we are from a repair or supply perspective, if they could have their own staff, maybe that would be the greatest thing for them, but they can't. It doesn't make sense in the economic climate we work in. And, they want somebody who's focused on it to drive value.
Paul Valley says the same thing at Pythian. Every time there's HP or somebody like that declares the Palm operating system or something, a legacy product, they clap their hands because they're kind of like you in a different space, and they're also Ottawa based. What they do is they provide support for legacy systems, which are still all kinds of places.
Absolutely.
And so they say exactly the way you do. They say to their potential clients, "Look, it's like we're on your staff, only we're not, right? And we will keep that stuff running for a long time."
Absolutely, as long as you need it. And key to us is to take that role of saying, "We are your staff. Give me objectives like I would have got when I was at Nortel."
That's perfect.
Right?
That's good.
So at the early stages, when you really have a lot of cash flow, did you draw a salary? Did you pay your key people? How did you, you couldn't have earned what you earned at Nortel right away. So
it didn't take too long, actually.
That's good.
Because there was little to no overhead, right?
Right.
We had a third, home, and we had a third-party warehouse, and you know what, we worked a model where nothing cost you money unless it was moving or unless it, and we worked that model down to bare minimum in cost. So almost right from the start, I could pay myself, and we just went. So we were pretty fortunate.
That's amazing. Now, at some point, you were ready to seek some outside funding, and I know you've got the Purple Angels in there, and Larry Poirier's in there, and some other people as well. And you waited until you had the model more or less proven, and that you had better leverage in those negotiations. Can you, without betraying confidences, can you share with us what that was like?
Daunting. At first, when you're starting out and you don't know anybody, there's almost like, not a club, but
it's a club.
As you start to, the more people you know, the easier it is to get access to more people to know.
Right.
And when you're starting, I was a worker at Nortel. Yeah. I had a dream. I laughed, I quit, I took the risk. Yeah, I still am. But honestly, you know what? When you're starting, you're really not sure which direction to go in. And you see the vision, you see the potential for, growth and dollar signs and all those wonderful things. You don't know how to get there, and you have to make the right contacts along the way that will help bring you there.
But also the right culture contacts, like not just the guys with money,
Absolutely.
the people that won't screw you in the end.
Absolutely.
Or help you
and you know what? One of the things that's really tough is when you've never gone for any kind of financing before and you've never worked with any kind of funding before, you don't know what to expect, and you don't know, are these guys bought into the concept and they want to support me? Are they friendly with me because they want to support me, or do they just see a dollar sign and they don't give a crap about, you know what I mean?
It has to be both, right?
It is. You know what? There's a healthy blend there.
Yeah.
But when you're starting and you don't know those things, it's difficult. It's
So
difficult.
what was your gut
to make
telling you? How did you make those?
Wow, we went. The first time we talked about getting funding was probably about a year before we actually went to the Purple Angels, and actually secured it. So we had talked about it, and then we backed off and said, we'll try and run the operation. And I think you said something earlier, Bruce, about, building the value of the company before you get funding. You called it the tall poppy. And that's absolutely true. So the more you can get going, you suffer a bit, but the more you can get it up off the ground, prove the concept, show the concept, get some customers, all those things, you're building the foundation for your business, but at the same time, you're building the foundation that when you do go to somebody who's going to invest in it, they see it becomes obvious to them that, look what you've done with nothing. And I think there's also a respect factor that if you're willing, if they see that your skin is totally in the game, that you are willing to do it, you will do it with nothing. You will just do it because you're like a man possessed. You know what? They see that, and they want to enable that.
I hear that all the time, both from investors and from successful entrepreneurs, that you can replace or fix just about anything, but you can't fix passion.
Yeah.
If the CEO, the founder, the owners are not passionate about what they do, you're sunk.
Yeah. I honestly believe that throughout the years, I've met with a lot of people, end users, OEMs, other people doing brokering and distribution, things like that. They quickly get wrapped up in your intoxication. You get intoxicated by what you do. You love it. So you exude this passion. You know what? I would do this for free. I just love doing it. And they get all whipped up in that because, you know what? They like it and they want to believe, right? So when you go and you show a wholehearted, I am absolutely going here, and you know what? You can tell me no.
And you put your family behind it, your mortgage.
Totally.
You put your risks on the table.
Absolutely, all the way.
And you their help to take it to the next level.
And the sick thing of all for me is that money has never been the driver. I want to see this happen. I have taken a lot of risks. I've gone without paychecks. I've done, a lot of things like that most people would look and go, you are crazy. But I just want to see it go. And
now, what part of it, though? So is it the recycle part? Is it the fact that you found a purpose to something that didn't? Is it, what part of it gets you so jumped up?
You know what? It's something that no one else sees. And kind of educating on that, the fact that there is an alternative to buying that new piece of gear, the fact that, you know what, the customers out there, the end users, they need help and it's not being given. I mean, there's an environmental responsibility that comes with this business as well.
That's a lot.
Oh, huge.
Environmental impact. What do you do? Garbage split dumps? Where does it go?
So in a lot of cases, it goes off, overseas and ends up in the wrong places.
Right.
But I think over the years, you know what, I've seen with GrowHogs initiatives, We initiatives, things like that, people are getting wise to the fact that, oh my God, there is huge piles of this stuff that eventually will be going somewhere.
Right.
And legislation has started to tighten down on some of that stuff.
Helping you or hurting you?
No, I think it's a help. I mean, it's a help in general because it's making people be responsible about what they do.
What they're buying.
Because at one point, it would be a big dumpster rolls up and it all goes into the garbage.
On a small scale, this is actually happening with lawnmowers. There's a huge revolution in the United States about lawnmowers.
What's happening there?
Well, people are buying new lawnmowers every year. And what happens to the old lawnmowers?
I don't know.
And then there's gas leaks. There's actually a law being passed in the States. So it's so small like you're talking about bigger things, and I'm just bringing it down to
but
the layperson.
it's everywhere, Jennifer. I mean, if you look at real estate companies, I know lots of big real estate companies who go out and they give you the green bin, they give you the blue bin, they give you all this stuff, and then you actually come in at 2:00 in the morning into an office building or a shopping plaza. It all goes to the same place, to the dump.
Yeah. Really? I'm shocked now. You burst my brain. What do you mean?
The only reason they give you those bins is it's PR.
Well, you know what I find incredible?
You're really crying.
I'm telling you.
I'm going to hop on the bandwagon here now.
Do something, Len.
You know what?
You are a green company now.
We are, absolutely. But one of the things that I find absolutely astounding is we do recycle paper. We do recycle plastic. We do that kind of stuff, or at least we're moving towards it.
At least you put
You know
it in
what
the
I
bin.
find incredible is that if you go, I have kids, you go to a restaurant, they give you a toy, right? Yeah, it's their marketing. But as well, anything that we're doing when it comes to computers, when it comes to technology at home, VCR that's no longer needed,
right.
DVD players, that kind of stuff, that is all electronic waste.
I know.
Why is there not a program, a bin program? For that stuff, where someone comes around and
there
picks
is that place in Ottawa. It's way
totally. There's
that's one depot
stewardship
there.
program.
Those guys are cool.
But
they're like old wizards around all these
totally. So what I'd like to see is why isn't there a green bin program at the house? Because realistically, when they recycle this stuff now, they get paid for it.
Right.
So why wouldn't the government, come in and say, look, let's have a green box program for electronics, because we're all talking about like crazy.
I like that idea.
And then take it and actually use it to generate funds to put back to that
Bruce,
program.
who do you know? Who can we call?
Well, let's call Jim Watson. He's easy to get to. He's everywhere in Ottawa, and you know what? He does listen.
No, he's a nice guy. Okay, so we've got a caller for you, Len. Mark has a question. Mark, you're live on the Firestone Clark Report. What's your question for Len Anderson?
Thanks very much. Renaissance has been in the news a lot recently. I've even read in James Bagnall's Citizen article that Renaissance could easily become a breakout success. Certainly, you've had war wounds. How do you stay the course given all the challenges that you've hit as a company leader?
Great question, Mark.
Well, you know what? Passion. It's
lots of coffee.
Yeah, sometimes booze. But no, it's about driving. When you have that vision, you have that passion. You see what's out there. You know what you want to accomplish, and it just forces you to keep going. It's not that you'd be surprised.
Motivated. It's self-serve.
You'd be surprised the creative solutions you can come when you're hit with problems. Because there's a lot of challenges. Growth is a key challenge. How do you manage that? We have a great set of employees today. How do you manage to keep grooming and growing that culture with more people?
Are you a hands-on manager, or you kind of let people do it thing?
Yeah, I think I'm from the front to the back of the building quite a bit. Maybe sometimes too much, I'm not sure. But as we grow, we need to backfill with the people that can step into those roles. But still today, I love my happiest time is when I'm out on the production floor that we have there, and I know you haven't seen it, Bruce, you have. I love to play around out there. I love to see the technology and get my fingers dirty on it.
Wonderful. So, Mark's question, you're in the press a lot. Does that give you more pressure to succeed? How do you receive that? I mean, it's good news, but
yeah, absolutely. I think that it gives you pressure. You know what? You are driven even more because you want to. Press sets an expectation. Right. You want to meet or exceed that expectation. But at the same time, it's very empowering because you know that your story is important enough and you're harping it out there in the right way that people are listening and maybe they're following.
Right. Thanks for your question, Mark.
Thank you.
So we've got another question from Larry. Larry is on the line. Larry, you're on the Firestone Clark Report with Len Anderson. What's your question?
Hi, Len. As an entrepreneur in Ottawa, and you've been in business, I guess, for a few years, I was wondering how easy was it to get angel or VC investment for your company?
You know what? It takes a lot of rounds. You have to learn what is required, especially when you're starting at ground zero. The great thing about the investment community here, it probably doesn't have the funds that it used to, but they're really motivated people and especially technology-based, they're really happy to help out. So, I think a lot of the guys, especially anybody that started from ground zero and worked their way up, they have a passion, they have a drive, and they see it in you. And I think a lot of it is, if you can present that there's a business case, that's one thing. If you can present that there's something there and you're driven and going towards it, that is, I think, the success factor with working with a lot of these guys, because they want to see that you're confident, and that you know what you're going towards.
Was there something that they required of you that you weren't prepared for?
Yeah, that's a good question.
There's a basic business model sort of template that you could work with that would apply to any VC, but some VCs are different and they kind of want to know something
Absolutely.
or
so
more.
There's a polishing, right? A polishing that you need to do on giving the data in the way they want to see it. Because, a lot of this does come down to data-driven. Nobody wants to invest their own money into something where they go, I'm unclear of the outcome.
But did you research, in your case, the Purple Angels, who are well known in Ottawa, did you research their personality, what their focuses were? If you talk to, Kevin O'Leary, it's one way. If you talk to so-and-so, it's another. You have to understand what they're looking at.
So in actual fact, you know what, that hindsight probably would have been good on the first meeting, because I remember sitting there on the first meeting not knowing what you're going to see or talk about. And, you're sitting across from these people, and then very quickly you start to see that man, these guys have been here. They understand it. And then you can adapt and kind of just go at, it's almost entrepreneur to entrepreneur, because a lot of these guys, the fire is in their eyes. They see it, right? And when you get on that level with them and you're just talking about business and what you want to do, what your aspirations are, I think then the mask comes off and it becomes easier to just hit them on, here's where we want to go.
Well, that was a good question from Larry. We've got another question from Lucille. And Lucille wants to know about your business plan and your supply issues. So, Lucille, welcome to the Firestone Clark Report. You're on with Len Anderson.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. Your business plan to work with the world's largest OEMs is really ambitious, but I can't imagine your challenges with parts, supply issues, the number of space shelves needed, and the staff talent required. What are your keys to dealing with some of the big players out there, given that Renaissance is still young and is growing?
Yeah. Oh man, that's a meaty question. So absolutely, some of the things that we see as challenges, we work on legacy products. So it is the older stuff, and you can't always get everything. Our technical ability, actually, over the years, as we've honed the technical side of the business, it's really helped us to get in and supply things where potentially by doing this to it, you've turned it into this, and you can supply a broader audience. The other thing is that you also build through communication. You start to understand who has what. It's critical for us to understand.
Rolodex, like the fighters,
absolutely.
Who knows where this stuff is.
Absolutely. And the thing is that, for us, the other thing that we need to know our customer's customer. So the more we can understand what, an example, a level 3 is doing out there. So they're buying a global crossing within the news. As they do that, what's their intention? Are they going to roll all the customers onto one network and rip out another one? So there's a pocket of inventory that you can go and pick from, and you can work with them on it. So, there is that activity is going on out there, so you really need to have the heartbeat and the pulse on how to get to those end users and really understand them. So it actually ends up being a value to us because we're focused on the OEMs. They have customers. We understand their customers, so it helps us drive services through them to their customer that their customer's going to go, got it, need it, let's go. Right?
Wonderful. Well, great question, Lucille. Thanks so much for your call.
Thanks.
It makes me think of you must have teams working on different issues. Like I could see a bunch of people reading papers, doing research, making phone calls, kind of like having to know that it's historical sense of the customer and their customers.
Your sales team becomes part of your procurement team to some degree.
Yeah, but sales is one thing, but like research. Do you know what I mean? Like having that sort of Wall Street angle, like this guy has a boat he's going to sell this. So so-and-so. And
the funny thing is that, you kind of get into, you start to hear things and people will call you and go, hey, I'm doing this, or I want to do this, or hey, I heard this is going on. Did you know about that? And now I get emails from just people, even just people I know that'll say, did you know that blah, blah, blah is doing this, or they bought this one? Wherever that churn is, then you can go and take advantage of it. But inside our little business venture here, the sales guys, it's critical that they are sourcing guys at the same time, so they're looking for excess.
Right.
And alternatively, the procurement guy is also like sales guys because they're looking for the deal as well, because when we're buying from people, sometimes they're looking for things at the same time. So, the radar is up on both those fronts, even though you may have, a procurement title or a sales title.
Okay, Jennifer, it's time to pay for the show.
Wonderful, Bruce.
You can ask me how?
How do we get paid?
Well, Len has a credit card. We heard that earlier in the show. Maybe we should ask him.
Hopefully it's the black one by now, but yeah.
Oh, we got our sponsor for the show now.
Woohoo!
Yeah, you know who it is. It's Fortress Real Capital and Brad Lamb. And they're new blood in Ottawa in the construction industry. And frankly, we need a little bit of
places.
I think so, and we need some new blood here in Ottawa. Most of the developers are my age. Really, really old.
You and
24 of them.
You and ageism.
Yeah. I don't know how to say respond to that. At 40 years. So now they've come to Ottawa and they're doing 3 projects in Ottawa. Gotham is for sale now. It's downtown on Lawn Street. It's about 18-story condo, and condos start from $215,000 and they go up to $650,000. They're going to do another one, Soba, and then they just bought another site, which I know a little bit about, on Catherine Street. And the city of Ottawa, is trying to intensify. So when Fortress Real Capital and Brad Lamb came forward with their proposal to do another condo on Catherine Street, the city actually upped the height of the tower.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
awesome.
That's good. So we'll have some new blood, and for all our listeners out there looking for condos, good place to go.
Wonderful. So thank you, Fortress.
Yeah. There you go. So now we pay for the show, and we can go on. So, Lynn, I asked you a question. Other than starting your business, which is obviously a key decision, the most important decision to actually begin your journey, the next thing I think that really was crucial to you is HR. A business by itself doesn't really produce a lot of revenues. Assets by themselves just kind of sit in a corner and gather dust. It's people that produce revenues for the business.
Absolutely.
I know you've had a churn rate out there at Renaissance of about 50%. So not everybody you got on the bus initially is still on the bus.
Absolutely true. Absolutely.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about HR? And I think you have a job fair coming up next month, and you're looking for about 30 new hires this year.
Yes. So we have a job fair ITO is going to host on February 16th.
Okay, can you tell the listeners where that is? Because a lot of the listeners are young people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they might be looking for a job.
Well, then we're the place to come. So
you are.
425 Leggett Drive. Okay. We're going to have it right in the plant so that they can
Perfect.
have a look around and touchy-feely.
Give the address again.
It's 425 Leggett Drive. Right at the corner in Canada, right at the corner of Leggett and Plant.
30 people. What kind of?
So we're looking for technical people. We're looking for sales types. We are looking for planning types for production because production is ramping.
And finance too, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's really the whole business is growing, and as the entity grows, because the growth is kind of explosive, and 2 times growth, that's great when you're going from $500,000 to $1 million, but when you're going from $5 million to $10 million, it's exponential growth, right? So
what are you looking for in the person? So outside their digits, their degrees, it's all kind of basic after at some point, and then becomes the person.
Yeah, so one of the things that I've found, fit. You know what? People inherently can learn a lot of different things, but they want to have the want to learn and the energy level to learn.
Adaptability.
Adaptability, absolutely. Yeah. And we are still wearing a lot of hats, and as we grow, the business evolves, and as the business evolves, the roles evolve.
Yeah.
So as the roles evolve, we're finding, oh my gosh, I need, to plug this hole that we didn't have before. So people are, required to wear a lot of hats. It's people with, we try and get them in, make them understand the business and get kind of intoxicated on where we're going.
So floaters, transferable skills that they can move.
Transferable skills and high energy, right? High output. And you know what? As we evolve, we have slated positions, obviously, but you know what? People do wear a lot of hats, so we need people that can be flexible.
Right. And when you mention wearing, because I'm such a hat, Mishta, is it like business attire? Is it casual? Like, what's your corporate culture like?
So right now it's business casual, I would say. I'm wearing a suit today, but that's not always.
You're talking to the Bruce.
That's it, man. I was.
You meet the Bruce, and you have to.
You have
the king.
An expectation.
Hey, it's All-Star Weekend.
But I actually like businesses, though, that let people be people and not, like, there's so much culture out there that says that, you know, you wear whatever, and it's just, as long as their output and their production is good,
True.
let them do what they want to do.
Yeah.
But that's me.
And you know what? 3/4 of the building are wearing blue smock coats anyway.
I wore a white one when I went out there. You wouldn't let me have a blue one.
That's right, because we were afraid
they
of the
wanted
blue
to
one.
find you if you got lost in all
I might carry a couple of $10 billion switches out under my lab coat or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, we have a very today. It's, I wouldn't say loose, but you know, it is business casual. So people wear what they're comfortable in. We don't like to see necessarily, you know, coming in as naked, but
yeah, that would be Zappos, I think. They do that. All right, so you've got some HR issues, and you've had some churn, and you've kind of got the fit thing going on. Now, we did talk a little bit too about China and India. You know, I certainly talked to lots of tech executives, and you know, Apple came out yesterday, I think, with their quarterly results for Q4 of 2011, and they were blow you away numbers. But before Steve Jobs passed, he was asked by President Obama, how come there are about 45,000 people who work at Apple in the United States, about 20,000 overseas, but 750,000 working in China in contract manufacturers? So, you know, what's with this deal? And Steve said to Mr. Obama, those jobs are not coming back, Mr. President. So there's a lot of concern about, can we compete with those nations? You know, Apple certainly has shown that you can, but really, you know, 750,000 jobs overseas and 43,000 in the continental United States. So how do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, in our niche market, I think we're probably in a pretty good shape because, I mean, from what we do, because it's legacy, because, you know, we're not talking about millions of dollars being able to be invested in logistics. We're not talking about millions of dollars being able to be invested, you know, overseas. It's very localized. And the skill set that we have is particularly in Ottawa. We've got people here who design the legacy products.
Right, yeah.
So we have a niche. We really, really are blessed here to have people that, you know, they're smart. They understand technology. So in actual fact, I think you saw some of it when you were there.
Yeah.
We in-source repair from China to Ottawa. So, I mean, we are definitely different from that perspective when we have, you know, carriers in China that are actually sending all the way to Canada to have the work done and sent back. These older products are very complex, and you know what? You need to know what you're doing. And they carry millions of dollars worth of revenue for these guys. Mm-hmm. You can't leave that to chance. Mm-hmm. You know, the other thing is that a lot of the legacy component here from the actual inventory itself resides in Europe, North America, and what you see is, and South America, of course, and what you see is, you know what, it makes more sense to come to Canada from a technology perspective as well as, you know, just from a cost competitiveness. We really, really are cost competitive compared to what's done in China.
Okay, so I like the business model, I like everything I hear about it, but I have to ask the question, are you in a cul-de-sac? Like, will you run out of things to do? I mean, you're supporting legacy equipment, and eventually the legacy equipment will be replaced by new stuff made perhaps in China.
So that may be the case from the standpoint of where it's made originally. Yeah. But reality is that, you know, we go out and talk to the end users, the AT&Ts, the Verizons, these guys, to really understand what their plans and intentions are. And you know what? These guys, a lot of the legacy equipment that has been there since the 70s, I mean, even way before there was a boom, is still there. And they're saying on things like old switch technology, another 15, 20 years on that. But the thing is that even as those retire and go out to pasture, you know what? They're going to be replaced by something. And as they are replaced by something, we will still be in there. Eventually, those boxes are going to be replaced.
Everything grows old. It's like age.
It's exactly it. You know, it would be like saying, you know, is there ever not going to be a used car market? Is there ever not going to be cars requiring repair? It's just going to keep happening. And
is it because the products are so expensive to replace that you're helping you that they can't just go out and replace you know, $10 million?
So think about it by just be very pragmatic. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to pick on a bell again. When I grew my network infrastructure, people were logging onto the internet like crazy. Mm-hmm. So first I grew the telephone switch because we were all plugging into the wall.
Right.
So I grew that infrastructure. Then all of a sudden everyone went, I love this internet thing, but you know what? I need it to go faster.
Right.
It's real dog slow.
Yeah.
So then they started to build high-speed access and optical networks and all of these things, but there was new money. If I'm Bell, it makes sense. I'm going to spend billions of dollars on infrastructure. But you know what? I have the offset of I'm selling a brand new service called the Internet, which is brand new money to me. So you know what? I can afford it. It makes sense.
Right.
But today, you know what? My Internet bill at home, my cable, my phone, my cell phone, all that, I'm bundling them together. I'm going back to the guys like Bell saying, give me a discount, give me a discount. This isn't an emerging market anymore.
Right.
Everyone's on the Internet. It's not a fad. We're all there, and we're using it. So you know what? There's no new money for a Bell to say, oh, I'm justified in ripping everything out and replacing it. If you did a business case and actually studied someone like a Bell ripping out all their network, I bet you'd see they'd be bankrupt with, you know, like that, because they just can't afford it. It's different times.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, Len. Let me tell you some of the stuff that we're seeing at exploring.org. We're seeing that a lot of the startups that get a mentor or have a mentor or have mentors are tending to do better than others. And we find that companies that set goals, track their metrics, have a mentor, and maybe conventional mentors at that. You know, maybe not just a banker, lawyer, you know, accountant advising them, but somebody who's been a mentor, has been in the trenches himself or herself. Did that play a role for you?
Absolutely. So I have a mentor. Larry Boyer is one, and you know what? Since because he sees it, because he has a lot of fire in this guy himself. I think you know Larry.
Oh yeah.
Excellent guy. So you know what?
Just for full disclosure, he is on the board of directors of exploring.org.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Well, it's like another commercial plug.
There it was.
But at the end of the day, so he came in and just said, look, I'd like to work with you and show you the ropes.
Was this before VC or after VC?
It was kind of, you know, we started talking to him, and right away, as soon as we started talking to him, he was like, I like this, I like you, there's a click, let's start talking, and we went from there. So I really have two. So I have another guy named Cesar Cesarato, who he has the big business view.
Yeah,
like, I mean, he is one of the megas that...
And got a great name. Big name.
Yeah, for sure.
And the first name and the last name are the, you know, almost...
You can't forget.
So the two of those guys, but once I saw the benefit in it, I really, really grasped onto this, and then we went out, and now the most recent is we've got a guy named Michel St. Jacques, who was one of the, at Nortel, helped to grow operations, streamline operations, and perfect operations. And now we've elected to bring him in to help streamline and grow and mentor the operation. So, you know what, I would, if you can find one and you're trying to get any business venture off the ground, I would totally, now that I'm going down that process today, I would full thumbs up. Absolutely.
Well, I have a question to ask you in front of 1,000 people.
I knew this was coming. You're getting set up from the beginning.
We love to add mentors to our exploring.org network, and you know, you're at the age and stage now where you've done it, you've been in the trenches, and you really know what it's like to get a real customer, to build real cash flow. So we'd love to add you as one of our exploring.org mentors.
Awesome. I have no problem with that at all.
All right. Well, we'll be all over that in no time. Let's just turn to a personal side of things and what it's like to the personal dimension. You know, you have a wife, and when you started 4 little kids, and they're a little bit older now.
Yep.
You live in Rockland, and you work in Canada.
Oh my gosh.
You manage everything.
Yeah.
4-wheel drive.
You know what? I just love sitting in the car for an hour and a half a day.
Oh,
man, is it ever great each way, actually.
Yeah, listening to your inspirational tape.
You can do this. You can do this. So, you know what? It's tough balancing. I think you're kind of going down the, you know, how do you balance, right?
Yeah.
And it's tough.
Just before you answer the question, I'll tell you, we had John Kelly a few years ago at the Telford School of Management, where I have a new title now. I'm the Entrepreneurship Ambassador, having just acquired my new title a couple of weeks ago. But we had John Kelly, who started with Nabu and System House and did so many things in tech. he came in, and John is not a young man anymore, and he was telling my class what it's like to be an entrepreneur, but you got to get that work-life balance right. He has a family, and I know his family is a lovely family. He wants to get that right, and I was listening to him, and I was kind of going, wow, really? And John is, he's saying to the class, I'm retired, and I said, okay, John. After he finished, his speech, I said, John, okay, you're kind of semi-retired rather than retired, and thank you so much for coming in and speaking to the class. So in this retirement of yours, because I know he's very involved, how many hours are you working a week? He said, I don't know, about 65.
Yeah, you do end up putting in the hours. So, I mean, with balancing home and work, it's tough. I'm one of the lucky ones, I guess, because my family at home, they really support me, and they put up with my crap because I'm on my BlackBerry until 11 o'clock at night, most of the time, sometimes later, and you have to be on top of everything. So you put a lot of allowances. They make a lot of allowances for me. You try hard because I don't want to miss their lives. Mm-hmm. So, we have this wonderful little place in Sept-Îles, Quebec, 13 hours away that we go and spend time together. But it's tough. I'm sure that the statistic around marriage breakup and family breakup and going through some of this has to be huge. I think I'm one of the lucky ones, but I could see where it really takes, a toll on your family if they're not there to support you.
Dumb question, but why not move more closer to work?
You know what? So, okay.
No, I'm not going to talk marriage choice here. I'm just asking sort of a dumb question.
So, actually, it's our community.
That's where you grew up?
No, I've been there since I was probably 20. Right. But my family's all there. My immediate family's there.
Right. The support system's there.
The support system's there. But my children, their friends, their, my wife's friends, everybody's there.
Yeah.
So,
and that's a huge asset for her, regardless of where you live.
Totally is. And you know what? They do put up with a lot of crap. So it's worth the drive for me. I mean, we're lucky with technology today. I can sit in the car and work. Yeah. So I get an extra 3 hours of work a day. Thank you very much, Queensway, to get things done. But I use that time typically as work time, sometimes as relaxation time, so that I can put on the music and blare some M&M.
Well, when we did a project in Canada, we built Briarbrook years ago, and we thought that we would sell a lot of those homes to Alcatel and before that Newbridge employees, but we didn't sell many. Maybe 10% of the homes were sold to those people, and we did a little follow-up work on it, and it turned out people don't necessarily want to live right next to where they work. So you've got Briarbrook and you've got Newbridge or Canada Research Park sort of right next to each other. And when you'd go out, you'd be mowing the lawn with your new lawnmower, and you'd see the tower, and all you can think about is work. And so people wanted, they didn't want to be as far away as you are, but they wanted more separation than, walk to work. And I was kind of surprised about that, but I guess I should have been.
Yeah, and I think, it's more acceptable these days to be further and further away. Like, I mean, we commute and we all work remotely. I have people that, sometimes work from home. Sure. It's more accessible, and I think...
So you're flexible that way, because there's some employers who are just so anal about that.
Yeah, so I mean, we started off as a home-based business, right? So our employees, we had at one point, I think, 7 employees, and they all worked at home. Mm-hmm. It's tougher when you're going through a lot of the physical things we're going through, because our factory is growing, and, we need people on site for that type of stuff. But over the years, we've been flexible, and as we continue, it's an option that we explore.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I want to just turn to the subject of real estate for a minute, because I do have a real estate background as well as, I don't know how many careers I've had, 7 or 8 anyway. But in my real estate career, I realized that one of the tough things for startups to do is actually get some real estate. And I know you had some negotiations with Canderel before you built your plant out there on Leggett Drive. And can you tell the tech guys out there who are listening today, the men and women, what it's like to actually deal with a landlord?
Wow. So our deal...
You own your building or you rent?
No, we rent.
Yeah.
And our building took about half a year to negotiate. Yeah. Now, part of that was me, because I'm hard-headed and, you want to get a deal and all that wonderful stuff. And then it took about another year to get just in tune, especially for me personally, because I really didn't understand how cut and dry real estate works. So, you know what? you have to do exactly this, buy this, and if you haven't, it's a problem. And I come from a service background. The business we do is largely a service.
Right.
So I look at the customer as, I will go out of my way for the customer and slit my vein and do all this stuff. And it's a totally different market when you're talking about real estate. And the guys we have, Canderel, I don't know that they're any better or worse. We had our challenges when we first started. It's working well now. But it did take a good year to go through a process of just understanding what the expectation would be.
Yeah.
And anybody that's starting it new, get a good real estate broker, someone that you really...
Oh, I like it. No more ads. But all kidding aside, commercial real estate is quite different from, say, residential real estate.
Absolutely.
If you're a residential tenant, you are protected to some extent by the Residential Tenancy Act of Ontario. In commercial dealings, and this is generally true of all commercial transactions, so not just commercial real estate. If you're trading in a commercial market, a business-to-business marketplace, there is a judicial or legal expectation that these are negotiations between equals. So the government has to stay out. So you're on your own.
Yep.
So there you are. You're a tech guy, and you're negotiating with Canderel or others in Ottawa. Colonnade comes to mind, and many others. These are very sophisticated people, and they do this hundreds and hundreds of times. Maybe You've done it once.
Yeah, right. Or it's your first time.
Yeah, first time.
And the thing is that when you're starting, you're also not starting in a position of power because you are a startup.
Right.
So they're taking risks.
Yeah.
And you know what? You have to, maybe in my mind, you're going in a direction.
I have noticed that, when I was your age, Len, and a little bit younger, there were landlords in Ottawa, more of them anyway, that would take a risk. I did a lease negotiation for PrototypeD.org, Janet Alford's group, and we started down the path with one landlord, which is a major national group, and they treated these young people. These are architects and artists and really good quality people. I can't say enough about them. Amazing young people, but they treated them not as second-class citizens, but as third-class citizens. And I just terminated those negotiations. I said, we're just not going to do a deal with these people because I really want people to deal with each other with respect. And so we went to, they're located in the Glebe on Bank Street. We went to a landlord who was a local guy and got to know these people and saw, wow, these are really quality people. But, that is, if I could say, that's one shortage that we're experiencing, not just in Ottawa, but in Canada and the United States too, are entrepreneurial landlords who understand entrepreneurship.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you know what? There is no real... nobody markets themselves as, I will help an entrepreneur.
Absolutely not.
And you know what? It goes beyond real estate. It's tough to get...
when we were a landlord years ago at Terrace Investments Limited, the original parent company of the Ottawa Senators, if we had a tenant in trouble, what we would do is we would say to the tenant, come to us first. Don't do a midnight move. Come to us first. And maybe we'll cut the rent by half or even 2/3, and as you recover, you can pay it back over the following year. So we would sort of recover probably about half the tenants who got into trouble. Other landlords at the time, and still to this day, you don't pay your rent on the first of the month. On the third of the month or second of the month, you get a notice. On the third of the month, they can distrain you and essentially lock you out. So we just took a different approach.
Yeah, I got to say, Canderel now has been very flexible with us. They didn't know us when we started.
Right.
So long cycle at the beginning, much better now. But I think in general, if you're an entrepreneur starting, you're certainly fighting uphill. And T's and C's, terms and conditions on a contract, everything. Try and find a contract that's been done by somebody that knows what they're talking about. Every little thing, cleaning the floor, mock when you move into the building, don't expect that, the floor is going to be clean even. You've got to have everything spelled out to the letter.
Right.
And if you do that, you're in a lot better shape.
All right, Len, so let's change the subject now. We're 90 seconds to wrap up, maybe a minute. People have said, I've met with Oakry, Invest Ottawa, I guess they call themselves now. I've met with many other people, Ontario Centers for Excellence and others. And they're saying that, tech in Ottawa is really suffering, and I guess it is. What do you think is the future for tech in Ottawa?
Wow. I think that tech in Ottawa, we have the people and the resources here to do great things. A lot of the in demand right now is applications on handhelds. Hopefully we see that swing back as, bandwidth demands grow and we can get more into the tech side of things. you know what? It's a real shame if we lose that pool of excellence that we do have, because it's global excellence here.
It really is.
Yeah.
Well, Anderson, thank you so much for your time. You've offered us so much to think about, and you really are the entrepreneurial, story.
Really? Okay. Well,
the guy
thank you.
who's in the company who sees the bigger picture and becomes the company.
Fabulous,
so,
yeah.
No, I
Great
appreciate
story
that.
today.
And so you're writing, Bruce, an article in OBJ?
Yeah. I select one victim a month, and Len and Renaissance are
What one?
Well, I just did an article on Sharon Buckingham, screenwriter extraordinaire, lives on Holland Drive now in Ottawa, and so it'd probably be March.
We'll look for that article in the Ottawa Business Journal, but of course you can go online to blogtalkradio.com to listen to this and Firestone Williams Report. Thank you so much, Len.
Thank you. Have a good day, guys.
That was great.